I'm Jeff Flateau, the Cookie Man. I've been in the food business for over 30 years, and one thing I can tell you for certain, you never know what's coming around the bend. Stick around while we talk to some of my friends and colleagues in the food business. While it's the food that may have brought you to our show, it's the people and their stories that'll keep you coming back for more. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Welcome to another segment of That's the Way the Cookie Crumbles. I'm Jeff Flateau. I'm here in Perkinston, Mississippi at the Stonnington Farms estate with Katie Stonnington. She's graciously agreed to let me and the crew in, and we're very glad about that. And Katie, hi. It's nice to meet you. I haven't met Katie yet. I know her husband. So we've heard lots of good things, and we've had the meat that they produce here. So we wanted to see exactly how the operation worked and get Katie's take on the ins and outs of cattle farming and the meat industry. So without further ado, tell us, Katie, a little bit about yourself, where you were born, your family, how you got here.
All right. Well, I was raised in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. My husband was actually born in Australia, and his dad moved to Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, when he was 3. So he's lost the Australian accent. And we met at the University of Virginia, and that's where we met, and we got married young. And I studied chemistry, and then I taught, and then I went to graduate school in engineering, but I wasn't happy doing engineering. And he went to medical school and did orthopedics. And when we were, he was still an undergraduate. We were married, and he, wanted to go to med school, and I knew what the price of it was. And so the Berlin Wall was coming down, and everything was lovely. So we went to the recruiter's office, and he got a military scholarship to do medicine. And basically what got us here was Keesler Air Force Base.
Really?
Because he owed 4 years at Keesler. And we came to Biloxi, and he worked at Keesler Air Force Base. And we have 3 kids. 2 of them were born at Keesler. And he decided with his first year at Keesler that he wanted a farm. And while still working at Keesler, we moved up here. I was very reluctant because neither of us knew anything about farming, absolutely nothing. But that's okay. We learned.
Yeah.
And it takes time. And in a way, it's good because you're open to other ideas. You're not stuck in your ways. And we started out with 35 acres. And a friend of ours bought the adjoining property, and we did hay together. And then we got a couple of horses, or some horses. And then we had farm workers that decided, without even calling us, to buy some cows. So we got some cows.
Your employees both?
Yes.
Yes. That was nice.
And then we ended up buying it from which I'm sure is what they had planned.
Yeah.
And this was like 20 years ago, at least. And then my husband worked with a fellow here in Stone County, and they did commercial cows. And then I didn't like how that went. And so we decided, my husband came up with the idea of doing grass-fed beef.
You didn't like the idea that it wasn't grass-fed, or that it was... or just not...
I liked us being
philosophy.
more in control.
Yeah.
That's how he wanted it. And we ended up selling all the commercial cows, and then just started our own. And we started out grass-fed, and we'd sell to people, a whole cow or a half cow.
Let me ask you something. When you say commercial cows, I may have missed that. What is it?
They're not registered.
Okay.
Well, not that these are registered, but they're there. They go to a feedlot, and then they move on.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I didn't like the feedlots at all.
Yeah,
I also am I started the Stone County SPCA, so
that's what's on your voicemail. Is it?
Is it?
I think so. Yeah. You can.
Oh.
Yeah. Is this for Katie, or is this for the Stone County?
Oh, okay.
Not that matters, but I didn't know what it was. Now
so
I
I'm always looking at how the animals are, and I did not like the idea of feedlots.
Yeah.
And so I know that the cows here have they are well fed, they're comfortable, they're treated with respect, and it's when it's time for them to go off to the processor, that's it. But they have a great life before then, and you can see pictures. You can see out on the farm. They're happy cows. They're not crammed in together.
Yeah.
And then we learned more, about feedlots and about factory farming and the whole idea of that, and it was not good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand what goes on in a lot of places and a lot of businesses. So this is the take here is that it's a more humane, more civil way of doing business with the cattle, although they're going to be eaten, but that's what they're for.
Right.
But you're treating them with respect up until that point, and then I think that's what a lot of people want to see.
And we're not pumping them with hormones. We're looking at the people eating them too. They're not being pumped with hormones so they can get big fast. We're not pumping them full of grain so they can be big fast. Because if they got big fast, we'd make a lot more money. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Because to come up with enough grass for them to get big and, be large, healthy, and ready to go to be processed takes significantly more time when they're 100% grass-fed.
And a lot of more acres of land for them to graze and to keep up with, because you have to fertilize, I guess, the grass.
You need to fertilize. You've got to make sure it's at the right pH. You've got to find out if there's any minerals that the ground doesn't have, so you do soil tests. So there's quite a science to it all.
So he started thinking about farming 20 years ago, or longer than that?
When we moved here, which was about 23 years ago. So is when we moved here, and he intended on doing a farm, not a cattle farm. He just
wanted land
to get out.
Yeah. So, but neither one of you had farming experience. He didn't either. In Australia, there was no history of. But his dad, his people were Australian, right? That's a
longer story. His father was actually Austrian, and his mom's Australian.
Okay.
And he fled Austria when Hitler came.
Really?
And went to Australia.
Really? Austria and Australia almost the same. Yeah, that's a coincidence there, but well, you find a lot of that people that fled Europe.
I know.
Then and they end up in different places, and it kind of changes, the family tree, so to speak, or the way that things would have worked out if they'd stayed in Austria. But then they wouldn't have met, I guess.
That's right.
And you wouldn't be here with me today. So that's destiny.
Well, we did, like I was saying, we started out selling to individuals. A half a cow. Quarter cow.
Was it butchered? Did you cut the meat up, or you just sold them the whole? And they went and did it themselves. So.
We would take it to the butcher, and then they'd get the meat.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be USDA. And I think our first big step, was Corner Market, when Corner Market agreed to sell our meat, and we had a USDA butcher, and we really had to start figuring things out then, because it kicked everything up a notch.
Yeah.
And now we're at Keg and Barrel Restaurant, and we're at Whistle Stop Cafe here in Wiggins.
Yeah.
And I don't want to leave anyone out. We're at McDaniel's in McHenry, which is a general merchandise store, and they go through a lot of our beef, just the frozen beef. And we sell at 2 farmers markets, Ocean Springs Farmers Market and Farmers Market at Long Beach. We also still sell to individuals.
So you've got a website that they can go on the website and buy.
They go on the website and then they call, because we don't always have every cut.
Yeah.
And if I talk to them, I can say, well, it'd be easier if we met you, at the farmers market rather than you driving all the way up to Stone County.
Yeah.
If you don't need to. And we also still sell half cows and quarter cows.
Yeah.
And if somebody lives outside the area, I would, I tend to do bulk. Now, we used to ship a little bit more. We don't ship very much because since the pandemic, you can't really rely on shipping, and the last thing you need is meat sitting out in the sun.
The shipping times. Then,
yes,
you're not
and if you get a guaranteed, the price skyrockets.
Right, yes.
I think that's our next challenge, is learning how to do it cheaply.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
And we also picked up customers on the coast when, I've heard many say that they'd get their meat from, these places that send it frozen. And one time too many, it came completely thawed and no good. Because you can't, once it leaves us, you can't control what's going on.
Yeah. So you're talking about like Omaha steak or something like that? Or
I don't remember what they got. It was one of the it was one of those companies where
Yeah.
you can buy it and they send it, but you can't control that.
No.
The shipping, you can pay for guarantee, but you're going to pay a whole lot more.
And that's
But-
not even, I mean, that even happens sometimes. It doesn't make it, or they give you your money back, but it still doesn't get there. Then you got to go through the whole process.
and
again.
we're too small to give our money back that
you're-
often.
Like you say, you're also, you're selling so much that you're hard to keep up with it. So you lose some and you don't want, your inventory's down and
Right.
you got to redo that. So how long were you here on the farm and you got into the meat end of it, started really doing a business with it?
Let's see. We started, we had horses for about 5 years and just doing the hay.
Yeah.
And then we were doing the commercial cattle, and we probably did that about 2 years. And then we would sell. First, I remember one time we had a cow we had grain, and one that we did grass only. And one was called T-Bone. I can't remember the name of the other steer.
Yeah.
And we compared the taste and everything. And I remember doing that, and we learned that.
So you compared the grass-fed versus the grain-fed, yeah.
And we just slowly kept building. And
Grain-fed used to be big deal. I mean, that was like the name. I don't know if it meant anything, but it was like
I know,
a good
you'd
connotation.
see a label that said grain-fed.
So now it's grass-fed.
That's right. But another thing about grass-fed is we are 100% grass-fed. And often when you buy things labeled grass-fed, they are finished on grain.
Yeah.
And the USDA allows them to put grass-fed on the label just as long as there is grass available, but they can still be fed grain. And it's hard to find 100% grass-fed, but that's what we are.
That's a real sticking point for your business, is that it's 100%.
It's 100%. And we've changed our label over the years, so and especially in a farmer's market where I am dealing directly with the consumer, what they want and what's important, and I learned that put 100% grass-fed, because other people are not 100%. Other farms are not 100% grass-fed.
So that distinguishes you.
And we are, yes. I mean, obviously there are other ones that are, but in this area there are very few 100% grass-fed.
So do you have a lot of competition in the area? I mean, do people sell like that, or do they go to auctions and sell their cattle that way and they never see them again?
Most of them sell them at auction.
Yeah.
The majority of it. There are more, and it's a very good thing. But there are more farmers that are processing locally and then selling. And it is more competition, but the people are eating much better. So that's fine. As long as, I'm happy, because as long as a consumer is buying local beef, the consumer's the winner, and as long as we have competition that's healthy for us to make a better product.
Yeah.
And since the pandemic, actually, when we first started, the only USDA butcher was 2.5 hours. It was in Summit, Mississippi. Really? It was 2.5 hours one way, 2.5 hours back. I mean, that's an ordeal. Now we have a USDA butcher in Lucedale that probably opened maybe 5 years ago. That's an hour away.
Yeah.
What a big difference.
Yeah.
And then from what I'm hearing, since the pandemic, when, processors were closed because of COVID and there was a meat shortage, there are many more local processors.
Yeah.
And more USDA inspected processors, because you cannot sell to you can't sell a piece of meat unless it's USDA inspected to the public, and you can't sell to a grocery store unless it's USDA or Mississippi State inspected.
So we did one of our earlier shows was with Faraj Muhammad, who has family meat in Olo. We went in the meat locker, but I thought he was USDA, but maybe not. But he has somebody on site all the time when he's.
Oh, he's probably USDA.
Yeah,
but that's far, isn't it?
Olo. Well, it's on the way to
well,
Columbia.
he could be. What he could be doing, they can do custom cuts.
Yeah.
Like you sell half a cow, or you sell your meat. You sell the cow, and somebody, or half a cow, a side of beef.
He cuts it for them.
And he cuts it for them.
Yeah, I think that's what he does.
Yeah.
And how far is Lucedale from here? Is it?
Lucedale's 1 hour.
1 hour, yeah. He's in, yes.
There might be more. He might be one of the newer ones that are up. But at the time, I remember searching, and it was Summit, or it was 4 hours to some place in Alabama for USDA.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's tough. And then that cuts in on your profit and your time.
Oh, totally. But it's
5-hour round trip, and that's not getting gas or stopping. So it's 6-7 hours by the time you get done.
Yes.
On some days, or if you have a flat, maybe 9.
That's right, and that's happened.
That can happen. Yeah, you're hauling heavy duty weight there.
But,
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's great that more farmers. I think it's very good if they process it locally and they sell their cows locally.
Yeah,
it is much better because you're getting better beef. You're helping the local economy.
Yeah,
and
you're cutting down on transportation costs.
Right, all of that.
So that helps, and it's. And
when something
safer.
like a pandemic happens, you're not going to be messed up because somebody's, a huge, enormous processor in Iowa
is shut down.
Shut down.
Right,
That's not your problem.
Yeah, I think people kind of looked at that and figured out, maybe buying in a radius that's closer is better on a lot of different things, not just meat, but just a whole sundry list of things. So you run the day-to-day operation.
My husband makes a weekly list.
Yeah.
That he gives to the workers.
Yeah.
And
how many employees?
We have 2 employees right now.
Yeah.
And the everyday daily one is checking the water, checking the minerals, because cows have to have minerals like a
salt lick or
like that.
Yeah.
Where it's salts with minerals in it.
Yeah.
And check the waters when we've still got some electric fence, make sure the electric fence are up, take a good look at the whole herd within them, make sure nobody's sick, that everybody's,
Do you count them?
I don't think they count.
Yeah. Did any of them die on you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, things just happen.
Yeah.
It's when you have 300 cows or 250 cows. It doesn't happen often, but it happens.
How many calves do you have a year? Do you produce?
We were breeding before. We're doing minimal breeding now, and we're getting calves. The people we get the calves from, they're local, and they sign an affidavit that they've had no grain, and we basically get them when they're weaned from their mother, and only because birthing is a whole another problem.
Yeah.
And it's best to have an expert at it, not just the birthing, but taking care of the pregnant mama, and also what happened is we started running out of land because a pregnant mother eats lots and lots of grass.
Yeah.
And you have the calf that's younger, nursing on her, that eats lots and lots of grass, and we just didn't have enough land. As the business went up, we couldn't provide enough beef on the land we had if we had to raise some other calves. Now we do have a few. And we have 2 bulls, which are used from time to time. But for example, in this past year, we had 10 calves born on the farm, something like that. Mm-hmm. And we bought a lot as they were being weaned.
Yeah, you got pictures of the bulls, right? We want to see them for sure, but we'll show those to y'all as we move forward. So, is your vet bill high? Is that one of your big expenses? Or is that
no, the vet bill's really not
an
expense. I can tell you right now, because I do the taxes, what the big expenses are. It is buying hay. Mm-hmm. It is fertilizing, liming. It is taking care of the grasses.
And then the property itself, fence lines
yeah, once the fences are up, it's fine. But especially now, building materials extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Now the processor is not cheap. He's not ripping us off, but that's a big chunk of what you're paying for a piece of, like for a side of beef. About 30% of what you buy of the beef is just for the processing.
Yeah.
Because, it takes a lot of work to process it all at once.
So when you go to the farmer's market, do you have that meat cut fresh for you when you go there? Or do you have it in a cooler or a freezer?
The meat is in a freezer. We pick it up typically on Friday before, and we, of course, have cuts left over that are frozen. He's supposed to put it immediately in the freezer, and we put it in the freezer and bring it back, and it stays in the freezer, and it's in the freezer at the farmer's market. Okay. So now sometimes it's so fresh it's not frozen yet.
Yeah.
But typically it's frozen, and we've had no problem. I mean, the taste is still very good. And actually, the meat, what often happens at stores when you buy meat is it's frozen when it gets there, and then they'll thaw it. Well, ours is frozen, and it's never thawed until you thaw it. So
got you.
it's technically fresh meat.
Yeah.
You know, when you thaw it,
You got
it
a
would
longer
be
shelf
similar
life
to it.
Well,
It's the shelf life is very good because it's vacuum sealed.
yeah. But then your meat's not thawed, so the other meats are thawed, so their shelf life is dissipating quicker.
Right, and you can't predict exactly what you'll sell that well. We'd have too much waste if we. I mean, farmers markets can be crazy. One time you'll sell a whole bunch of sirloin steak and no brisket, and the next time you'll run out of brisket and not sell a single sirloin steak. So you never know what people are going to buy up to a point.
Depends on what they need and what they're having.
Right. And if it's nice weather, suppose they want a barbecue, or if it's cold, they'll buy roast or stew meat or something. So it's not always that easy to predict.
So is it safe to say a selling point would be that your meat has a longer shelf life, and that if you're going to a grocery store, the meat's normally been frozen anyway, and it's thawed?
That is the least of the selling points. The better selling points are it tastes delicious. Okay. You're getting quality cows, not cows where you don't know where they came from, where somebody's buying them because they're cheap. They look for a certain level of quality. Here is an extremely high level of quality. The beef is delicious. Nobody's going to buy beef if it's not good. And nobody's going to bother to go to a farmer's market to buy beef if the beef isn't good, because we realize you're taking an extra step. You are helping the economy. I'm paying the processor in Loosedale. I am paying the local hardware store for all the supplies right here in Wiggins. I'm paying somebody in Moselle for soy hull pellets. I'm paying, it's all so localized.
Yeah.
And I'm paying the employees, which are then going to swing by at such and such a store and buy some.
Right.
So it's amazing how being local really helps.
So your kids,
economy.
Do your kids, any of your children help with this, or is it?
My daughter is in law school. She finished her first year. She's coming back, and she'll do the farmers markets. Yeah. And she likes to deliver beef. She does a lot of that when she's available. Yeah. And I have my youngest son just started truck driving. He's 21. And he worked on the farm daily before, and he'll be the weekend help. He can do anything. Yeah. There's family pictures of us. I can show you as you leave, where we're all out on the farm. Everybody's clean and neat, but the youngest son, because he just got off the tractor.
I've heard about him.
So he is we're all the real thing, but he is truly the real thing. Get off the tractor for the family portrait, whereas everybody else has put on clean clothes. And he's the one that has the 4-H bulls. So when you see the bulls, those were his 4-H bulls. He loves animals, and he's just naturally good at the farm. Now, my husband he's a physician. He's very much a scientist and studying, the soils and what works, what doesn't work. So he's very good at that aspect of it. I'm very good at the consumer part. Like if somebody, says, I want a roast. Well, do you want a roast that you roast in the oven, or do you want a crock pot roast? Is it in liquid? Is it not? And I guide them to just the right cuts they want.
Do you have recipes on your website?
I need to put them on. That would be a very good idea. Yeah. I have some recipes I take to the farmer's market. Like if I'm having a special on short ribs, I'll take some recipes that use short ribs. Yeah. So,
would you be willing to come on our recipe segment and do one of your favorites?
Actually, this was funny. I tend to sign up for things too easily. Yeah. But when I was at the Ocean Springs Fresh Market.
She did this real quick without even thinking. So I was like, I got a sucker here.
When I was at the Ocean Springs Farmers Market, and the lady in charge said, we do something called the Taste of Ocean Springs, or the Chamber of Commerce does, and we provide a booth. So would you be willing to have food to serve there? For this. Oh, sure. So I volunteer, and then I find out it's got to feed 350 people, one taste each. So I've got to figure out what can I make.
And it's free for them.
It's free. It's 4 hours, and it's like, well, forget fillets because I'm not doing that. And you can't serve anything that's going to go dry. And I'm like, and I go out to my freezer, and I've got all these rump roasts. I thought, we're going to serve pot roast. Yeah. And I made pot roast. It was able to stay moist the whole time. And I made my own broth from bone marrow bones, and that's incredibly popular. Mm-hmm. I sell out of bone marrow bones, and I've got catering group called Three Bells that makes bone broth because I have to have a commercial license to sell bone broth.
Yeah.
Or a commercial, I have to use a commercial kitchen and all that. So I just get their local catering group and they make it and I sell it. And we tied the James Beard chef at the Taste of, I didn't even know there was voting, but we tied him for the best entree because the Taste of Ocean Springs is all these restaurants, restaurants and grocery stores and such, and they all, give samples. I
think I know
of
you're
their
talking
food.
about. I saw him in the paper maybe with that award-winning.
Right,
Yeah.
and we tied him. I didn't even know there was a contest.
Yeah.
I was more wrapped up in, because I'm no caterer, is how am I going to make all this food and how am I going to serve it and why have I gotten myself into this thing?
Well, you did well, obviously.
We did. We did.
Yeah, you did good. Well, that's how you get your product out there and people remember it. And it costs you a little money, but that's one way of marketing without really spending a lot of money.
Very good point.
Because there's so much you can waste money on. You don't know what your return is there. You got people that are buying already in the market. Did you say you had 3? So your older son, you have an older son?
My oldest son's in medical school.
Okay.
And he knows the farm. He can do just about everything on it.
They all grew up out here?
They all grew up here.
I thought you guys moved here like from Hattiesburg. I don't know why I thought that, but that was just in my head.
No, we came from the coast. We were only on the coast 1 year, and we've been here for like 23 years.
So, and he was in the Air Force.
Air Force.
Yeah. Did he fly planes?
No, he was a doctor.
Okay, just as he did the doctor, and
he did the doctor.
So he went to school, then he went back to school as a doctor, and then he went to serve after he graduated. Is that how it works with the?
And then he had to train too.
Yeah.
Orthopedic surgeon. So that was 5 years. So no small amount of training.
So what's your favorite part about this business? I know it seems like you like creating something that's healthy, that's beneficial, that's good quality. What else drives you to do this?
I like having our own business. I really like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because you're in control. If there's a mistake, it's your mistake. If something good happens, that's great. And there is good and there is bad. I love being on a farm. Just going out and seeing the animals in the wide open spaces. Those are my personal things that I like. I really like the farmers market where you go out and you meet all these people and you see these regulars you wouldn't usually know. You meet the vendors.
Yeah.
Typically people that sell at farmers markets, they're an intelligent group because it's not easy to sell a product, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the people that go to the farmers market are an intelligent group because they're taking the time to get up to get fresh local produce.
Right. So what you said earlier, you took a leap of faith or whatever. I think the people that do those markets and make these products take a leap of faith.
Yes.
Because you don't know getting into it where it'll lead you. How much it's going to cost you? Will it be successful? Will it look stupid? So you got to.
But the nice thing is to do a farmer's market, you don't have to put a huge amount into it.
Right. Yeah.
You don't. You're never going to make a huge amount just on a farmer's market, but it's a good way to get into the market. It's a great way.
But if you fall flat, your reputation's. Some people worry about how they look going in. So it takes a certain type of person to go in and do these things, to be entrepreneurial in that sense, and with no guarantees and no paycheck, really. I mean, you're not getting paid unless you may be paying somebody to help you, but you're not getting paid unless you sell.
That's right.
And make a success out of it.
And it's when it's pouring down rain and you're paying somebody to go. Yeah. And there's not going to be many buyers, but you have to be there because if you're not there, then nobody's going to go to the farmer's market if there's a 40% chance you won't show up.
Right. They won't trust you. So you have to instill that trust in them. So what do you see for the future? Do you have new products? Would you do free range chickens? Would you do some type are you looking at things like that, or you just want to keep the cow business and that's it?
There is a great market for free range chickens. Yeah. But I do not want to do free-range chickens. But there is a tremendous market for free-range chickens.
You see the chickens on the trucks, and it's like,
I know.
It's look, like you said, they're going to die. We're going to eat the meat, but it's how does it get there? Same with the chickens. I mean, they're all going to die whether they're free-range or they're on the truck. Right. But you look at that and you go, man, that's just that's hard to fathom. But yeah, I mean, you go hunting, you
Well, when you
kill
go-
the food and you eat it, but I would imagine that would be something that I don't know if anybody does that around here, free range.
I need to look harder. There used to be someone who did it right in Stone County, and he stopped about 3 years ago. And I've heard of a name in Loosedale, and I need to get it. But there's not an abundance at all of people that sell.
So they run into the same issues with you, land, space.
No, you don't need that much space
No.
for chickens, but I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but my understanding is you have to have a certain quantity to take them someplace to sell them outside of your home, like away from your home. Mm-hmm. There's some strange rules with selling the chickens. So we used to have to go to the fellow's house to buy the chickens. You couldn't go to the grocery store to get a small farmer's pasture-raised chickens. And I have never seen them at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they can't because of whatever that rule is, or they're not doing it. That needs to be looked into. But I'm not the one that's going to raise chickens.
You're not going down that road. Yeah.
And I'm not milking cows.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But you'll
Yes.
drink the milk and you'll eat the chickens, but you're not going to.
But one thing we are doing, like we're now selling. The same catering group makes a chili out of our beef, so we started doing that, and I don't want to do too many already made foods.
Yeah.
But I have to say it's very convenient to pull pre-made chili out of your freezer, and you have dinner tonight, and it's something good.
Where do you sell this now? Is it online?
At the farmer's market.
You don't sell it on your website?
Oh, I can. They can call the farm or say on the website that they want it, or communicate, and I'll sell it. But I don't sell it we don't sell at corner market.
Do you sell in all the corner markets, or do you just sell to one?
We sell at 4 corner markets.
You deliver it?
I deliver it usually. Bellevue, Hardy Street, Oak Grove, and Petal.
Mm-hmm. Any other groceries? You're just them.
They're the only grocery stores, and then McDaniel's. We sell it frozen right here in McHenry.
Yeah. Well, do you have plans on expanding that sales? I mean, do you see what does that take if you wanted to do it? Is it a lot more land or more cattle, or are you not even worried about that?
I haven't. I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest. I
No,
mean, it'd be
fine.
nice to do another grocery store. The problem a lot of the time with grocery stores is they want ribeyes, they want tenderloin, they want those top things, and we're limited.
Yeah.
I mean, in the farmer's market, the first thing I sell out of is ribeyes, and then probably tenderloins.
Mm-hmm.
So, what... Oh, we also sell at Four Bulls. It is a seafood deli and meat market in Ocean Springs. But to give you an example, we only sell typically the fillets and the ribeyes.
At Four Bulls.
At Four Bulls.
Yeah.
So that's really part of it, is where you only have so many of the steaks, which is what a lot of the grocery stores want, because that's what the people consume.
Yeah. Well, you got to give them what they want, and there's only so many parts to the cow, and then that's it.
And especially if it's fresh, because they need to sell it. So for them to buy, say, short ribs, what are the chances of a small grocery store selling fresh short ribs within 2 weeks or whatever?
Yeah. What kind of problems did you run into when you first got started that were you thought this is insurmountable, or it was really or were there any, or gosh, I don't think I can do this, or there's too much red tape, or I know you mentioned going to the butcher that was USDA, but was there anything else that you had to do that?
The only one time, I tend to be an optimist, I guess, or I don't worry about things too much. But I remember driving back from the processor that we had previously, and he upped the price by 25 cents per pound hanging weight, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to reflect that with a 30 cents, because hanging weight is not the same thing as final weight, probably more than 30 cents. Like a 35-cent increase per pound. Well,
what's hanging weight mean? What does that mean?
Hanging weight is as soon as the cow is slaughtered and dressed, cleaned out, and the processor hangs it on a rack.
The whole cow?
Well, it's split in half.
Split in half.
It's split down the middle, and that's why they call it a side of beef. The left side, the right side, it's a side of beef.
For those of you who didn't know.
And
including me.
it's got fluid in it, and it slowly drips fluid, and it's mostly water. But the hanging weight is when it's initially hung. It loses about 30% of its weight between initially hanging and the final product you get.
Like shrinkage in a restaurant where you start out with a 10-pound prime rib and it goes to 9.
Yes.
So you're losing that, and you have to account for that when you're selling it. So that's
Right.
like.
Right, and a lot of it's fluid. It's not, and then it's some of it's bone that they're not using. Some of it's excess fat. Some of it's they got to carve out the meat that's kind of rotted when it dry aged, which is what happens. Just the outer surface, and I'm like, I can't. We're trying to sell our beef at the price it is now, and you have difficulty. There's no way, and that was probably the lowest point. And then I switched processors.
Yes, well, there you go. I mean, that's the.
Yeah, and I never like raising the price, but you have to. Sometimes, you just have to.
You got to make a profit.
Yeah, you got to make a profit and pay your people.
That's your duty to do as a business person. You have to do it, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
That's right.
But there's no shame in that at all. But you try to keep your prices where you can, and that's all you can ask for out of a business person.
Or it's a balance between the two.
Some people jack it up, but they end up losing in the end. They don't make it because the other person with the lower price usually wins, and that's how our society and economy work. Really.
Right, and like during the pandemic, we could have upped the price significantly. We did not up it at all.
Yeah, well,
just because of that. And
she's honest.
And the blessing on our processor, he did not up it either, and he could have. That was the what do you call it? The bottleneck, or.
And this is the guy in Lucedale.
This guy in Lucedale.
What's the name of the company?
Price. It's Homestead Farm and Packing.
Homestead Farm and Packing. So a good person there as well. So
yes.
Well, you hear about the pandemic, and I guess as we move on in life, that'll be kind of a barometer.
That's right.
Like Hurricane Katrina in this area, and then that, and what before, what after. Did you do anything different during and then now that you weren't doing before?
During the pandemic, well, any restaurant business we dropped. We didn't drop them. They
weren't open yet.
So you'd think we got hurt. But we kept getting phone calls. People wanted a side of beef, a quarter of beef, a quarter of a cow. And the first question I'd have to ask is, do you have a freezer? Because you could not find freezers. So a lot of people, they couldn't get whatever they wanted. And I said, I can't cut it for you until you make sure you have a freezer, because they're hard to get. And it got to a point where it was like the end of May, and I had a waiting list till November of people that wanted half a cow or a quarter cow. And then I just stopped. No more half cows, quarter cows, because this is craziness, Yeah. And I had never said you are only allowed so many pounds of beef, but I'd go into the farmer's market and there was a 10-pound limit on ground beef, or on any beef. I would say you're limited to this, this, and this. And as it got lower, the limit got more, because my goal was I want to leave with meat in my freezer. I don't want any customer, I don't want to have to say to anybody, we have no beef, because people were panicky. Yeah. And it's like, you don't want to hear, I have no beef.
So you were rationing it
I was rationing. I don't ration anymore, but
you had
we were rationing, because and you get people that didn't need all this beef, but they wanted huge, because they were worried. And I can understand them being worried, but I knew there's plenty of cows. And as long as there's a processor, you're going to be fine.
It's like the toilet paper and
the toilet paper.
Everything else, and it was. But I mean, you can't blame anybody. They don't know, and they panic is a good word. Is what you said.
And actually, another thing that helped a lot was when everything started closing. Both farmers markets called. The first one was Long Beach, and said, "Well, I guess we need. We're going to close down." And I said, "Why? This is so much healthier to be outside selling rather than in the Walmart." And they said, well, you're right. So they called the mayor and they arranged it. And the mayor came to make sure we were doing everything right, we being the whole market. And the farmers market got nearly doubled since that time. During the pandemic, it was way up. And after the pandemic, it was higher than it was before. And that was true for the Ocean Springs Farmers Market. I think they closed maybe 1 week or 2 weeks, and that was it. And they stayed open, and they just had rules where, social distancing, all that. And when people knew nothing, we didn't even have tablecloths, flat things. And if somebody, put their hand on the table, we'd be right behind them with a Lysol wipe, because nobody knew what was going on.
But you got to eat, so you need to be able
and
to
so
sell.
you have to be there. And
there were shortages of things. I mean, there were shortages, so you want to sell everything that you can for people.
And it introduced us to a lot of new clients that we've kept since then.
Yeah.
If you have a good product, you'll keep them.
So do you have plans with the website on trying to do, I know you talked about the shipping, on trying to ship out more? Is that something you're looking at, or trying to figure out on the costs and how it works and all those metrics that make that happen? Or you just want to keep doing what you're doing?
No, I know we also always have to, change and expand or shift things. I like doing the farmer's market. I just need most of the ideal time for a farmer's market is Saturday mornings. Well, you can't be at two places at once is the bottom line.
Yeah.
So I guess the what makes the most sense to expand at this point is selling probably quarter cows and half cows, which can also be shipping, because we can stretch out farther with quarter cows and half cows. But I think I'd like to sell more of the quarter cows and half cows, the bulk cows, because I can't do any more farmers markets on the Saturday mornings. I could do one on a different day. I don't like doing it on Sundays, and I'm too old to do 2 farmers markets in a day.
I hear you.
I did that briefly. I'd go to, a farmer's market in the morning on the coast. I'd come home, and then I'd drive down to a farmer's market in Diamond Head, and I'd leave the place at 7 a.m. By the time I was done with the whole day, it was 8 p.m.
Yeah.
For what? I mean, we'll make some money, but we're not going to get rich on this.
Yeah.
So and I'm too old. If I was young.
That'll wear you out.
Yeah, it'll wear you out quick.
Well, when you deal with customers, it wears you out anyway. Even if it's a draining thing.
Yes.
Because you're
you got to be on top of it.
You got to be on top of things. You can't be slouchy and, I need to get some tea. I can't talk to you right now. You give me.
And like the grocery stores, like I said, you only have so many ribeyes.
Yeah.
So I think the way to go is to try to move more quarter cows and half cows.
My wife, before I met you or came down and even arranged this, she said, she was telling me about, I think we had gotten, anyway, with your husband, a website design or something, and we talked about it years ago, but she said that Katie's a real rocket scientist running a meat factory. Are you a rocket scientist?
No, I did materials engineering, but it had nothing to do with rockets.
Okay, so
but it taught me things. I can write things out. I can do the math.
Yeah.
Which you have to be able to do math. This is not easy. How much to buy, how much you need to get. That, Keg and Barrel needs this much ground beef. Like just yesterday, I got a call from Keg and Barrel that they need 250 pounds of ground beef. Well, you better have 250 pounds of ground beef ready in your freezer, and you better know how many cows are going, and you better know if you need to have them made into 10-pound packages for Keg and Barrel, or do you need more for the farmer's market? You got to figure, because you've got limited freezer space, and you got to know what's going on. It's not rocket science, but it's, it's you have to think. You have to be able to do it.
Do you sell to both their locations, or all 3, Keg and Barrel? They got the other one on the coast and in Hattiesburg?
Well, they only have 2 right now. They were going to open Keg and Barrel West. We did sell to Keg and Barrel West, but now they don't have enough. They couldn't hire the kitchen help, so they're not opening.
That's an issue. That's a COVID issue. But,
yes.
I think the people are there, but some are getting some freebies. So so it's hard to get people to come work right now. I know in our business too. So it's. But
I will say both Keg and Barrels all restaurants that are opened are doing really well.
Oh yeah, they're busy. It's just a matter of getting some people in there to help them. So it's a situation that you have to deal with in that business. So what's your favorite song?
How about favorite movie?
What's your favorite movie?
I like Casablanca.
Casablanca. Well, that's a good one. What about book? You have a favorite book?
Right now, I just finished reading 1776, and that was very good. David McCullough. And
that's a thick one.
Yes.
That's a thick one, yeah. That's probably a 10-year deal for me. I've started about 10 books, and I hadn't finished.
Try
it yet.
1776.
Yeah, I've
'cause
got it actually. Yeah,
It's very good. It's and it'll keep you going. You know, it'll make you. It's not, you know, you can't put it down, but it's very entertaining. It's very good, and you understand more about your country.
yeah. Well, one day maybe we'll see a book from you about, you know, rocket scientist or engineer moving into the cattle business and the successes and the triumphs and the not failures but problems that are associated with that. We've enjoyed being here. I know the guys went out and toured, and you know, people need to know where their food comes from.
That's
You
right.
may not know if you're buying certain things, not to downgrade anything, but it's always good to know where. And if you're buying the Stonnington beef, then you know exactly who made it, who touched it, and who takes care of it. So that's reassuring. And if you're at one of these farmers markets, or if you're in Corner Market or at Keg and Barrel, go in there and get some good beef and support a good cause here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we enjoyed being here today, and good luck to you and
Thank you
everything that
very
you
much.
do. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.